A late comeback effort falls short in Dublin against the Steelers, but let's be honest, the Vikings did not deserve to win that one. Let's break it down on the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much to my hashtag everydayers, those of you who listen every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. I'm coming to you from Dublin, Ireland, where the Vikings just dropped one 24-21, a game that is the score is way closer than the game actually was, because the Vikings got absolutely drummed up and down the field for most of this game. A late comeback effort was fun and exciting, but ultimately came up, I'm going to go with appropriately short, but it was at least nice to see him show a little bit of life at the end. By the way, because I am in Dublin, I'm in a hotel, I am doing this via a Wi-Fi connection that's a little spot. It's a hotel Wi-Fi, so if I do like buzz or cut out or there's any audio stuff, just know that that's why, and I apologize, I'll do my best, but there's not a lot I can do about it. So the Vikings lose 24-21. I was at Croke Park watching it from the nosebleeds up there. And so our vibe on the game was pretty bleak for most of it. The Vikings go through three quarters. At a certain point, they're down 24-6 going into the fourth quarter. It was pretty similar, actually, to the Monday Night Bears game, where the Vikings just totally no-show for three quarters of the game on both sides of the ball. Total no-show. There are some interesting positives in the on the defensive side of the ball, in particular Jalen Redmond, who has 2 sacks. One was unblocked. The other I actually mistook for unblocked because he won with get off. He beat the guard so quickly that there was no engagement at all, and I was like, oh my god, they let him go through again. And it turned out that somebody was actually assigned to block him, and he just beat him that bad. So Jalen Redmond is having the season that, like, we have to start having serious conversations about that guy as like a real player, not just like a rotational kind of cool story from the XFL, but like a real true starter that maybe deserves money. But we'll maybe save that for later in the week. Ultimately, the defense had, moments that were nice. They had a fourth quarter, third and one stop that gives the Vikings the ball back with enough time to maybe get the game-tying field goal and make a game out of it and stuff. But it certainly wasn't all roses. They give up this big giant touchdown to DK Metcalf. They get absolutely walked up and down the field a whole bunch, especially up front and in the run game, where the run game was missing Jaylen Warren, who was a surprise inactive. He popped up late in the week in an injury on the injury report with a knee injury, ends up not playing, and Kenneth Gainwell just like cooks you, right? Like there's problems on the defense, but they pale in comparison to the problems on offense that just could not get it going. I think from my live eye, which, I mean, I was there, so I could actually see the receivers and stuff, but it's still my live eye, and it all goes very fast, and you can only see so much. So it's a grain of salt, but it really looked like Carson Wentz was struggling to see the field to me. It looked like a quarterback who couldn't see what was going on, who couldn't get through the reads in time, who was holding the ball too long, and even if he did eventually identify who he was supposed to throw to, it always took a pretty long time to happen. He was not going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 between the reads the way that I would even say J.J. McCarthy was in his first couple of games. And J.J. McCarthy wasn't exactly going fast. I think Wentz was going slower. I would want to go back to the film and check that. So, like, grain of salt. Again, I'm live eye. I don't have the benefit of replays on TV or anything. I'm in the stands, right? But that was the vibe that I got. And then Wentz particularly had some really spectacularly bad moments. I'm not going to get on him too much for a pass that was batted down and then turns into an interception. Like, batted passes are often as much on the O-line as the quarterback. I'm going to reserve judgment on that. But in the final drive, so in case you missed it, right? In case you slept in and you missed the game, the basic flow of the game was three quarters where the Vikings get dog walked. They're down 24-6. It looks like they just are totally laying an egg again, which is like, there's been one game where they didn't lay an egg, and it's because the Bengals fell apart in front of them. It's starting to feel really, really, really concerning. But then they get back in the fourth quarter. They go down and get one touchdown drive, make it, and the 2-point conversion, make it 24-14, and make it seem a little bit better. And then the Steelers bust a coverage on Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison gets wide open. The ball is way underthrown, so Addison has to stop, turn, adjust, catch the ball, and he gets going, and then a Steelers defender actually catches him like right in time, right at the 1 yard line. And so the Vikings, who are out of timeouts and they have less than a minute to go, have to, or no, they have less than 2 minutes. I'm sorry. They're like at the 2 minute warning, I think, trying to get it done before the 2 minute warning. And they have to run all the way up to the 1 yard line just to get a play off. They try to call a play there rather than just spike it on first down. They call a quick play and then they spike it, which is wild to me in terms of decision making. There's some really weird late game decision making that I don't fully agree with, and sometimes I understood it and sometimes I didn't. But the Vikings yard line, they call a couple plays. They end up scoring on fourth down to a quick out to Jalen Nailor. There was one on second down that was wide open that Carson Wentz throws behind him. And that was a theme throughout the day of throwing behind the receiver. There was one to TJ Hawkinson that he had to like go and adjust. And it was weird. There was one to one to Addison that was behind him. That could have been a big explosive. Wentz just didn't put the ball where he meant to nearly often enough all day. But eventually they do score. So they make it 21-24 at the end. They get the stop, get the ball back with about 50 some seconds, like a little less than a minute, and the chance to go down and get the field goal, tie the game, take this thing to overtime, right? Or as Kevin O'Connell said after the presser, like they were even thinking, hey, if we get close, maybe we got enough time where we could even start taking end zone shots and try to end this thing. But that dream very quickly went out of fashion as the Vikings take a 15-yard, ridiculously bad sack. I didn't see who was downfield. I just wasn't looking. But Kevin O'Connell said that there was an opportunity for a chunk there, so I'll be curious to see it on the tape if I can get a look at it here abroad. But either way, they take a sack. Wentz tries to get away from it. It's intentional grounding, which ends up loss of down, and they lose the yardage anyways. So functionally, yeah, it's a sack. And then they get like half the yardage back. It brings us to a 4th and 12 situation, and the Vikings can't get it together. They get a delay of game. If you missed what Kevin O'Connell talked about with that delay of game, by the way, if you're super mad about it, they basically blamed the fact that about 3 minutes before kickoff, they learn that that Croke Park isn't going to have the play clock available to the players in the game. Usually, on both end zones, there's a big giant play clock that the players can look at, so they can know where the play clock is. And Croke Park didn't have that, and they didn't find out that they weren't going to do that until right before kickoff. So they were dealing with that. But I think that's kind of a hollow excuse because the Steelers were also dealing with that and didn't really have any issues. So whatever you blame it on, the Vikings get a delay of game. They can't get things together. They can't get their play call together. And they end up with a 4th and 17, and it's broken up, and the Steelers take over on downs, kneel it out. That's how this thing ends. It was a really pathetic 2-minute drill because they had a minute. They had plenty of time to just go down and get a field goal. And the first play out of that drive was Carson Wentz throwing it behind Jalen Nailor again and getting it picked off. And it just turned out that the defender who caught it bobbled a little bit and then didn't get his feet down in time. So it didn't count as an actual interception, and you felt like you got another lease on life. That is what this whole thing felt like. Isaiah Rodgers blocks a kick in this one that would have brought the Steelers to an 18-point lead and made it functionally impossible. And he blocks this kick, and the Vikings get the ball back on the 9-yard line. It just feels like this total miracle that Isaiah Rodgers blocks it. By the way, Isaiah Rodgers making another huge, insane play in an island game. That dude is quickly approaching national superstar status, which is really, really cool because we didn't expect that from him at all. But so again, there's bright spots on the defense, even though the down wasn't as exciting. It's just that the offense was completely and totally discombobulated. That false start was not the only time they had operational issues. I don't know if you guys saw this on TV, but from where I was sitting up in the nosebleeds, you saw a bunch of instances of a guy running out on both sides of the ball, running out and then going wait, it's not me, and then running back and then looking at, wait, is it you or is it there was visible confusion. So I really need to I need to know, and I don't think we're going to get to, but I need it to be asked. What are the Vikings doing when it comes to their operation? They got false starts again. They had miscommunications again. There was a play that was supposed to be a screen to TJ Hawkinson and no blockers went. So clearly a play call got messed up. And the whole argument we had all week about Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy was about Carson. Like the crux of it for Carson Wentz was, well, he's a veteran and he can get you in and out of the huddle properly. And no matter what you want to do to develop J.J. McCarthy, if he can't run the offense, it's kind of untenable to put him out there. But if the offense is still this disorganized with a veteran, it might not be about the quarterback. There might be something else wrong. And I wonder if it is. O'Connell's comments after the game was talking about how he would have to give so much information to Carson Wentz about, well, the edges are here and blah, blah, blah. And was still trying to talk to him in the headset. And you might be talking too much. That takes too much time. Let him get to the line and do his own thing. Let him live or die, right? Trust that you've prepared your player rather than trying to hold his hand and give him instructions at the line of scrimmage. This is not 2017 Jared Goff anymore. This is a 10-year vet. You got to let him just look and see, right? And I know he's only been with the team for like 3 weeks, but I place this game and the problems in it on the Vikings being unable to score a touchdown now. For the third game of 4, unable to score a touchdown before the fourth quarter. The offense was terrible. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They were horrible. Their biggest play was a busted coverage that was like pretty much a freebie and should have been a touchdown if that ball was halfway decent, but it was terrible. This was a bad offense all day long. So I need to see answers and I need to see growth. And by the way, they get one of the best defenses in the league coming in Cleveland. I know Cleveland's a rough team. They're at 1-3 right now, but they have a really good defense. Shut down the Packers and Jordan Love, a way more organized unit than the Vikings right now. So we'll see. There's a lot more to talk about in terms of the trenches, Carson Wentz, the receiving groups, and all that stuff. We'll get into all of that next on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day, we make all our decisions. We have takes. You all have takes, right? You have takes on who's good, who's bad, who's going to score, who's not going to score. Well, being right about that stuff can actually get you paid on PrizePicks. So don't miss the excitement of this season with PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun and simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, like Carson Wentz's passing yards or Justin Jefferson's receiving yards, which he almost certainly hit as more than here. He went over 100 yards. Whatever it is, you can quickly put together a play with a whole bunch of different stuff. They have a lot of like really fun discounts too. There's like max discounts all the time where a player has to get like half a passing yard or something. It's like they basically just have to participate and you win it. And it's basically like a freebie. Or even just like regularly discounted stuff. There was a Kyler Murray one in the Thursday night game where he just needed to get like 175 passing yards rather than his normal more than less than, which was like over 200. And he hit the promo, but not the one. So you got to just like go back and forth to find those, but they're really, really great opportunities. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineups. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This episode is also brought to you by Rugiet. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, I guess, is what that is. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rugiet Go Long. You've probably heard of like Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond that usual pill, it is time to meet Rugiet Go Long. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence because it lasts up to 36 hours and it's ready when you are. So you don't have to break up the momentum of the moment. You can just be ready when it's time to be ready. If you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off of your first order. That's rugiet, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Be sure to use our code so they know that we sent you at rugiet.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. So the next thing that I guess I want to deal with is the Carson Wentz thing. So all throughout the week, I kind of tried to parry away these arguments that like Carson Wentz is supposed to be the starter for the whole rest of the year, right? Carson Wentz is the backup, and he played like a backup in Cincinnati, and it just happened so that a decent backup game was enough to blow out the Cincinnati Bengals because the Bengals were having all kinds of their own problems. They sort of fell apart in front of you and you get to steamroll them, which is great, right? You see a team fall apart in front of you in your own home stadium, you should steamroll them. It's everything you wanted. But if you look deeper into Carson Wentz's game, you saw him holding the ball too long. You saw him making baffling turn downs. You saw him taking risky, weird passes that he shouldn't be taking or forcing plays that he shouldn't be forcing. And it's just that the Bengals were too discombobulated to take advantage of it, right? Against the Steelers, they were not too discombobulated to take advantage of it. The Vikings really should have had 4 turnovers in this game. The first one would have come in the first quarter, very first drive of the game. The Vikings were moving the ball okay, and then Jordan Mason on a zone toss that did pretty well, fumbles on the sideline. Jalen Ramsey picks it up, goes all the way into the end zone. Again, I didn't see on TV, so you're going to have to tell me if you saw this, because there was a review afterwards, and it turned out that Jordan Mason, I don't know if I call it a heads-up play or he was just trying to recover the fumble, but his foot was out of bounds, so he counted as out of bounds, and he touched the ball trying to recover it, which immediately kills the play. The play is dead. It's the second Jordan Mason touches the ball, and so Jalen Ramsey picks it up after that, but it doesn't matter, right? But Ramsey, in the end zone, did the fake hamstring gritty. I don't know if you guys saw this. He did the thing Justin Jefferson would do a couple years ago, where he like pretended he pulled a hammy and then like transitioned it into like a gritty right in the Vikings painted end zone at Croke Park. Later in the game, Jalen Ramsey pulls his own hamstring and is out for the game. So if you are listening to this, if you're an NFL player, you're listening to this, never do that celebration. You're guaranteeing that your hamstring will get pulled. That's just a deeply cursed thing to do. You cannot do that. Do not do that. Anyways, it ends up getting turned over, but like the Vikings super deserved a turnover there. Jordan Mason fumbled, and like the Steelers recovered. It's just that it happened to go down by the sideline, so somebody that was out of bounds the second they touch it, like you get, it felt lucky. Carson Wentz throws 2 real interceptions. One is a batted pass at the line that ends up in the hands of the defender. The other one is a tipped pass that goes to the hands of the defender. He was throwing to an open Jordan Addison on a third down, would have been a first down. So both of them are tipped balls, and you're not too upset about Carson Wentz about that. I honestly think the worst pass he threw all day was either the one to Addison that turns into an explosive, where Addison is unblocked or unguarded, total busted coverage. Steelers messed up. And it's just such a bad throw that he now has to go past it. Was it a linebacker or a safe 41? I don't know who that is on the Steelers off the dome here. But he gets hawked there, gets caught at the 1 yard line. And now the Vikings have to run up, spike it. Takes a whole bunch of extra time in a world where the Vikings are trying to make a multi-score comeback and every second is precious. So like like the margins there super mattered, even though it still turned into the explosive play, and you're happy enough with it, but like you're not giving Wentz an ounce of credit for that. Oh, cool, there was a guy with nobody around him, and you threw it in his general vicinity, and he still had to adjust so much that it ruined the advantage that he had. He could just catch it and get down the field. But the worst pass was probably at the very end. He throws this floater of a thing to Jalen Nailor to the outside. It gets picked off. Luckily, the defender bobbles it and it gets called incomplete. But like, you earned an interception. Like, you deserved an interception there. So even though the 2 interceptions he threw, I don't know if he necessarily deserved. The turnovers in general, the Vikings deserved to have turnovers. And they just kind of didn't come up at the point where it would have been appropriate for them to come up. But like, karma came back to get them. And Wentz threw behind the receivers a lot. He threw one behind Addison that was like behind him and over his head, and it hit Addison in the hands. You really need to get that one in, but he did make it harder than it was supposed to be for just evaluating the quarterback. He threw one behind Hawkinson that he couldn't bring in. He threw one behind Nailor on right after that big long Addison one when it was like 1st and goal or 2nd and goal on that play. He throws one behind Nailor who he can't bring in. So you get a lot of things that like will go down as drops, maybe, depending on who is charting it, because some places, like PFF, will never call it a drop if it was enough in the vicinity where, like, the receiver had to adjust but could have got it. They'll never call it a drop. But other statisticians will call it a drop if it was enough in your vicinity where you could have had your hands on it at all. So it depends. Whether or not it was a drop is going to be this, like, statistical anomaly thing. But, like, this is the part where we don't need to count them to understand them. Those were bad throws. It was a backup quarterback making bad throws. And so if we were to kind of apply this to the rest of the week and what we were talking about going into the week, which is like, is Carson Wentz so much better than JJ McCarthy that you, which I always thought was super, super, super stupid. And it was kind of proven that, yeah, this is super stupid because this dude isn't a good quarterback. He captained the ship during a game where a whole bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with him was deciding it. And a whole bunch of stuff that didn't have to do with him maybe decided it again. But like this time you weren't good enough to overcome it because the other team wasn't a potato. The Bengals were a potato in week 3. Let's be honest. The Bengals sucked. They fell apart. And I bet every single person on that team would be like, yeah, we fell apart in week 3. We sucked. That was bad. But the Steelers were not. They were a real boy NFL team, the true adults. And against true adults, you have to do more than that. You have to hit the throws that are there. You have to hit the open receivers that are there. The tape is not going to be kind. There were a lot of turndowns that I truly did not understand live. And maybe, you know what, maybe when I slow it down, I'll see what he was thinking. It's fine. But like, it wasn't a good quarterback performance. Even if you forgive the 2 interceptions that ended up getting caught, he played bad football. And I'm pretty excited to get the guy that they intended back, even if that guy needs to work on some of the operational stuff as well. Because it's pretty clear that the operational stuff is a problem with or without JJ McCarthy, and maybe that had nothing to do with it. And he caught a lot of flack for it. This is just not the time to go with the hot hand or what. The hand is not hot. That dude sucks. It's time to get him out if we can. What will happen now is, so a 2 to 4, a high ankle sprain, in my recollection, that thing has been like a 6-week injury for players. Like, that is a long injury usually. So coming back after 3 weeks after a high ankle sprain would be pretty nuts to me if they try to get it to the Browns. But Kevin O'Connell has said that that's a possibility. So we have to at least take it seriously and watch the injury reports and stuff. He's also said that if JJ McCarthy doesn't practice, that he won't play. They'll throw him in if he happens to get cleared on a Saturday, but he didn't practice that whole week. They'll do it the next week. So the Wednesday injury report, if JJ McCarthy is a DNP, he'll probably be out. And actually, the last 2 weeks, the Vikings have declared JJ McCarthy out on like Monday or Tuesday. So this, I don't think, will be a situation where we determine if JJ McCarthy, where he's like a game time decision or whatever. Unless he's limited all week, but he can at least get some practice in, then maybe it is. But like, if he's a DNP the first couple of days, he's out. Even if they decide to be cagey about it with their press conference stuff, he's out if he's a DNP for the first couple days. The question will be, okay, now you go to the bye, will you play for the Eagles? And as far as I understand high ankle sprains to be, that still would be like pretty tight. So I don't know. The Vikings have quarterback issues. And Kevin O'Connell has issues too. So there's 2 really fatal flaws that really come up from this game. And I think the fact that the Vikings made a little comeback effort at the end is cute, but it doesn't cover up those fatal flaws. And now that they lost, it's a little easier to look at the negative, which is just kind of the way it is, which is what we're going to kind of do next, is talk about the fatal flaws with the Minnesota Vikings and maybe how they can address them. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. Look, I'm abroad right now. I am jet lagged to heck. We flew in on Saturday morning, so I have no idea what time it is right now as I'm recording this. So this kind of thing is exactly what I am looking for. It's portable, so you're on the go. It's big taste in a tiny shot, and it gets you going throughout the day, especially if you're like late in the day and you're like crashing or whatever. This is exactly what you are looking for. And it doesn't taste like, it actually tastes good. It actually has some flavor to it. So you can say goodbye to boring, just sort of lame, sugary caffeine. In fact, 5-Hour Energy is sugar-free and it kicks in super fast. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5, ourenergy.com, or you can just search it out on Amazon today. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is well underway, and if you're not getting in on FanDuel, you gotta get on that. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Just find like whatever favorite you really like what's your survivor pool pick, right? And throw down their money line. Or throw down if something you're super, super confident about, an anytime touchdown scorer or a particular player prop or something. Whatever you're most confident on, throw $5 down on that. And if you win, you get your $300. The Vikings, last I looked, were favored actually in the Cleveland game by 4.5. Both the Vikings and Cleveland lost. So I would be surprised if it moved like too much. We'll see how it develops over the week. And then, of course, at the end of the week, we'll still do the Zoever under with those betting lines. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much more fun, especially if you watched your team lose and it's over by like 11:30 and you got to go watch your early game windows. You want something to worry about, or you want to go catch some Sunday Night Football or whatever, and you need a stake in the game. You can find it at FanDuel.com. You can download the FanDuel app today as well and get started. There are two fatal flaws with the Vikings game that I really, really feel a need to talk about. The first is that the O-line totally fell apart. This is the thing I haven't really mentioned all day. The offensive line totally fell apart. This wasn't entirely their fault. There were, by the end of the game, 2 starters left on the thing. So Donovan Jackson, he's got his wrist injury. He's out until after the bye, is what we've been told. Brian O'Neill gets an MCL sprain, probably. It's an MCL injury. He's getting an MRI on Monday. By the time you listen to this, you might know more about it than I do. But he gets an MCL injury on an extra point, of all things. I did get a question, hey, why are the starters out on the extra point? You basically put every active O-lineman on the extra point. Whether they're a starter or not, you'll see everybody, and that's universal. Everybody puts all their O-linemen out. Everybody who's got pads on goes out there for the extra point. That's not like a unique thing that you're risking your starters on special teams. That's pretty standard practice. But regardless, he gets an MCL thing. Justin School plays at right tackle. If you noticed, whoa, where's TJ Hawkinson in this game? Save like one series where he caught a couple. He was chipping for School basically every play. He was protecting School. They've got a backup tackle in. They don't trust Justin School. They use TJ Hawkinson to try to paper that over. It worked sometimes. It didn't work sometimes, but it sure is better than leaving him on an island. And then Ryan Kelly, or I think this actually happened first. I didn't notice that it was 65 until like a few drives in. I'm sure you all did. It was like on Twitter and probably mentioned on the broadcast and stuff. But Ryan Kelly goes out with another concussion. This is extremely concerning. Ryan Kelly, this is his 5th concussion now, second in, as many weeks. So that's like very concerning for Kelly. And when you get 2 in a row, the recovery time for the second one tends to be a little longer. So I would anticipate Michael Juergens to be in at least for the next few weeks. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Kelly had some pretty serious thoughts about the value of his football career versus the value of his health at this point. That's a really, really serious issue. And I certainly wouldn't blame the Vikings or Ryan Kelly if they held him out for a lot longer than just a week or two. If not even more drastic measures. I won't make any speculation about what actually will happen. I'm just saying I wouldn't blame him. I don't know. Sometimes they say, oh, this one's a minor one. It's totally fine or whatever. But I'm certainly not going to place any expectations on that. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of Michael Juergens this year. Michael Juergens struggled. Blake Brandel was in at guard for Donovan Jackson. He struggled. Justin School struggled. The backups struggled. We talked about like concerns about the Vikings O-line depth because of how bad the unit played in the preseason. And I think most teams, if you plucked out three random starters on their O-line, you probably wouldn't have a good unit. So I'm not like holding anyone's feet to the fire over it. However, I don't really expect this to get better. Brian O'Neill, MCL, that's tough. That's not a thing you like bounce back from next week unless it's the most minor sprain ever. We'll see what the MRI results are, right? But that can range anywhere from, oh, he's got a little swelling, give him some pill not to not be named, or surgery and you're out for 6 to 8 weeks, right? Like that can range from anywhere. It's better than an ACL, but still tough. For Ryan Kelly, the concussion, we don't know what's going to happen. We have a timeline we've been told for Donovan Jackson, but like this O-line is probably going to be piecemeal for a while. We're going to have to deal with that. And then that sort of brings me to the next thing, which is Kevin O'Connell had this really weird game plan for this. He went empty a ton. I think I get it from like if I'm to remove hindsight and the fact that the Vikings offense didn't really work until the Steelers started softening everything up because of game situation, right? We were on kind of the other side of a lot of those like 2022 Vikings wins where they were up by 3 scores and they won, and it didn't. It felt like they were clearly the better team, but it was technically a 1-score win because the other team made a weird comeback effort that still needed a miracle to happen and didn't happen. So I think we can pretty cleanly say, look, the offense was bad in this game, and I don't really care about the end. Because they fell short, I don't care about it anymore. The Steelers played a sort of back it off, make you use time kind of thing, and outside of a busted coverage, it did what it was supposed to do. So if we're going to take that, and then if we're going to say, yeah, but man, the whole backup line was in. Like, how much can you put against Carson Wentz when he's under instant pressure all the time? Because, like, Blake Brandel and Michael Juergens are getting killed up front by Cameron freaking Hayward. I get it. But also, you have to walk into other games with the same group. So you better figure it out, or you're going to see the season circle the drain pretty quick. And on top of that, the pressure doesn't explain everything. The Vikings put together an empty offense, like a lot of empty, with Xavier Scott outside. Like Xavier Scott was the like number 1 receiver. You've got like $100 bajillion in Hawkinson and Jefferson and a first-round pick in Addison, and you're the Xavier Scott offense now. And he didn't bring everything in that he was supposed to. He did catch the 1 touchdown. Good job. On a pretty good play from Carson Wentz, as critical as I've been of him. That was a good play. But like, this is not the offense you designed, right? So how are we like so far out of our preparation? Like, how are we so far off the menu here that we're running the Xavier Scott passing offense out of empty? I think I get empty in that, like, the Steelers love to load the box, get a bunch of things, blitz a lot. And if you go empty, you like force all the defenders to spread out with those guys, and then it ruins their blitz angles and makes them harder to blitz in general. So you can kind of blunt the aggression of them. The problem is if guys beat your linemen one-on-one, the whole thing is moot, and you don't have another protector on the inside, right? You don't have a running back or a tight end that can. So you're going five protection, like 5-man protection empty all the time against the most blitz happy, the third most blitz happy team in the league, a team more blitz happy than Brian freaking Flores. And you're just kind of hoping that your 3 of 5 backups O-line holds up against that, or that Carson Wentz can get the ball out quickly. Let me say that again. They were hoping that Carson Wentz could get the ball out quickly. That was the game plan. I think this was a spectacular coaching failure. And all of the problems that I've mentioned so far, all of them go up to the top. I really think this season has been a heat check for Kevin O'Connell. He gets Coach of the Year last year. He did a great job coaching Sam Darnold, did a great job the year before, coaching up all these backups and getting some production out of them. However, lost all 4 of his last games with Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall at the helm. Didn't win a single game with Nick Mullins. We kind of give him credit for getting a decent looking offense, but didn't win any of those games. And then he brings in Carson Wentz, and he has him fake a toss, pump a fake over here, do the weird motion, stuff at the line of scrimmage, big long play calls. It's so complicated. And it's so much time, big giant play action, long drop back, play pass, not a rollout, just a deep drop. It's so much to ask of players that weren't ready for that task because those players aren't supposed to be in. You're asking the world of your backups. You have to stop asking the world of your backups. But I think O'Connell got it in his head that he could. He asked the world of Sam Darnold, it worked out. He asked the world of Cam Robinson, and they won a bunch of games with him, right, with Christian Darrisaw out. You asked the world of a lot of players that weren't necessarily the best on offense, right? TJ Hawkinson was out for half the year. You asked the world of Johnny Munt, you get it. And you feel like the whole game is oh my God, I can absolutely do this with my guys, right? I trust them. I love them. I love my players. I trust my players. We can do anything we want. But you didn't. And this whole year has been defined by failing to do anything you want. I think it's a heat check. He thinks he can out-scheme any problem of his personnel. But at the end of the day, the guys you have on the field have to be able to do what you ask them to do. And they cannot. The Vikings have had 2 good quarters all year. I guess the Bengals game. So 6 good quarters out of 4 games. That's not good enough. It's a 2-2, and it's a bleak 2-2. They have to figure it out, especially if McCarthy's not coming back. McCarthy comes back, and then you go back into, okay, we're trying to grow, and we're trying to do what he can, blah, 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 and you get this patience. But if you got a 10-year veteran in there, even a 10-year veteran who's your backup, you got to be able to get to the line of scrimmage and not take a delay of game in a 2-minute drill. You just got to be able to do it. I think the sideline is disorganized. It has to be. You got subs messing up. You got play clock issues all the time, regardless of who's at quarterback. You have false starts, regardless of who's at center. This is a discombobulated and disorganized team that right now the coach of the year and the coaching staff that is so well respected has done a bad job coaching them, and they are an ugly 2-2. You have to go into this London game with a big rest advantage because you've been abroad for this long now. You got to beat this Browns team, and you got to find a way to move the ball on a fierce Browns defense. I'll take your questions tomorrow. You can get them to me at Town Hall Tuesday. The link is in the show notes to any episode or YouTube description of any episode. You can get me your questions or your hot takes. I'll take them tomorrow. And as always, Skull.